this video I'm going to explain you how to write a class definition. This question is a 4-mark question which comes under 2C question in your board exam, and it's a very easy question also. If you see, it has got more weightage, and so easily you can solve this and get 4 marks. All you have to do is just read the description and just write a class definition. So here, if you see the question, define a class LE-Well in C++ is given. So the class name is given in the question itself. So here the answers are given. Just check class name is LE-Well. So all you have to do is give the class name correctly. So class definition starts with the keyword class, give class, and name of the class is given in the question itself. Since it's case sensitive, you have to match with the capital letters and the small letters. So give it as it is and open the curly braces. And if you see here, you have private members and public members in your question. So whatever is given under your private members, you have to declare it in the private section. Public members should be declared below the public members. So if you see, a class has its own member variables and member functions. Member variables are the variables which are used in a class definition, and member functions are the functions which are used in the class definition. So if you go to the question, you can see we have CNAME is the first member variable, P number is the second member variable, number of units is the third, and amount. So we have 4 member variables in our question which comes under private section. And there is also another function called calc amount, and how to calculate the amount, the description is given here. Okay, so all these things comes under the description. You have to follow this and you have to write coding to how to calculate the amount. So all these things comes under private section. And if you see public member, here you have one function called accept, another function called display. If you read it, function accept which allow user to enter CNAME, P number, number of units, and invoke function calc amount. So this is very important. This function is going to call this call amount function. It's going to make a function call to this function. Maybe it's going to calculate and find out the amount and then print that in the result. Okay, so totally you have 3 functions in this class definitions and 4 member variables. Among the 3 functions, one function comes under private, the other 2 functions comes under public. So when you're defining your class, class starts with a curly brace and ends with a curly brace, and semicolon is mandatory. You need to give a semicolon to denote that your class definition is over. Okay, first thing is you have to define the 4 variables given here along with the description. So just see, the first one is CNAME. CNAME is of type character array. So if it's an array, you have to enclose 2 square brackets here with some array size. Array size is not mentioned, so you can give any number you want. So first variable is of character type, so you have to just give character here and CNAME of 20. Case sensitive, so you have to match capital and small letters as given in the question. And the next one is P number of type long. So here it is mentioned long, P number, and a semicolon. The next variable is an integer type. So int, number of units, and semicolon is given. And then you have amount and float. So write float and amount. Variables description given. We have defined the variables in the class. Now next what we had to do is we need to define the member functions which is given in the question. So here calc amount will come under private section, so you have to just write it along with the variables. So I am given here void calc amount and a semicolon because the return type is void. And then I have 2 more functions, accept, display. So under public section, these 2 comes under public, so you need to give the keyword public here, and below that you give void accept, void display, then close the curly braces and then give a semicolon. So you may have a doubt like public members, we have given the keyword public, but what about private members? Why the keyword private is not attached here? That's because By default, any variable you declare inside the class becomes private. So you don't have to mention it as private. If you want some variables or some functions to be public, it is mandatory that you specify the public keyword. So that is the reason why here we did not include the private keyword, because by default all these becomes private. So you don't have to mention it specifically here. Okay, so here we have given it like prototype. We did not write the coding for this inside the class. So we have to define it outside the class. So whenever you're going to define any function outside the class, you have to write the header line like this. You have to give the same return type. If you see, the return type here is void. So void is included here. And then you have to include the class name. So the class name should be included. The class name is label, and so here I have included class name as label. And what is the function name? The function name is calc amount. So here I have included the function name as calc amount. And then we need to calculate it according to these specifications which is given. Okay. So you see the specifications here. The amount is calculated with the formula number of units into cost. So number of units is given here, cost is given here. If you see, the first 50 units is free. So I'm going to use a if condition to check this. So inside the function definition, if you notice, there is a if condition here. If number of units is given, so number of units is lesser than or equal to 50, amount is 0. Why? Because here it's given first 50 units is free. So amount will be 0 for the first if condition, or else if the number of units is greater than 150, which means, see, if the number of units is greater than 150, which means the first 50 units from that is going to be free. So that will go on with this if condition. With this if condition, the first 50 units will be given amount as 0. So whatever is the remaining amount, so how to find out the remaining units? Number of units minus 50. So your number of units, if it is greater than 150, whatever unit is here, that unit will be subtracted from 50. Why? Because 50 units are free. So you need to subtract it from 50 and you have to multiply it with 0.80. The remaining number of units has to be multiplied. Then you get the correct amount. And then the next set of 200 units, you have to multiply it with 1.00 unit. So you have to again check the condition, see whether the number of units is greater than or equal to 350. If it is greater than or equal to 350, then you have to add 80 rupees with it, because the 100 units is 80 paise becomes 80. So first add that 80 rupees and subtract number of unit minus 150. You're going to get the remaining units from the next 200 units. So from the next 200 unit, this 150 units we are subtracting. For the remaining unit, we are multiplying it with 1.00. Same way in the next else condition also, I'm subtracting from number of units, I'm subtracting 350, which means the remaining unit will be multiplied by 1.20. And the first set of 100 units, I got 80, and the second set of 200 units got 200, because 200 into 1, you're going to get 200. So 80 plus 200 plus number of units minus 350 into 1.20. So this is how you're going to calculate your number of units into cost, which comes to amount. So amount is calculated in this function. So coming to the next two function which comes under public. So if you see here under public, I have void accept, void display. Void accept is going to take input from the user. Void display is going to just print it in the output screen. So how to write these functions outside the class? So here again, I have to just give this void here and the function name. Before giving the function name, you have to give the class name. Class name is what? Label. So you give the return type here first, which is void, and then the class name, which is label, and then scope resolution operator, the function name. This is how you have to define a function outside the class. You can also write this whole set of coding inside the class. Like see here, you have given the function, right? In this place, you can just write the coding here, but we always write the coding outside the class, because if it is having some complicated codings like if-else statements or for statements or switch case statements that cannot be expanded inside. it will show you error when you run the coding in your C++ compiler. So what you have to do is give the prototype here and define all the definitions outside if it's going to have some if-else statements or for statements or switch case statements. So in this case, since if-else statement is there, I have defined it outside. So even the other two functions also we're going to define outside. So when you're going to define outside, you have to follow this for the header line. You have to give the return type first, the class name, scope resolution operator, and then the function name. So this function accept is going to get input from the user. So the first variable is CNAME, so I'm just using getAs function to get input, and then P number of units are integers, so directly you can use the CIN statement to get input. And then I'm just going to call the call amount function, because in the specification it is mentioned that this accept function should invoke function call amount. So you have to give this line here. If you're going to give this one particular line correctly in this function, you're going to get 1 mark in your marking scheme. If this line is missing, you're going to lose this 1 mark. So you have to be very careful. Read the specification twice or thrice, understand the question, and then answer it. And then after this function definition is over, then again we have to define the function display. So void LEBIL scope resolution operator display, which is going to just display whatever inputs we got. So just give cout statement and then just include all the variables which we have in our class. So this is how you have to define your function, and it's quite easy to write a definition for this, because the class name is given, private members are given, the function is given, the description for the function is given. All you have to do is just put it in that particular block. It's private should come under private, public should come under public. If you write this correctly, you're going to get 4 marks out of it. So I hope this video would help you. Thank you.